Lab's all set up, boss.
Oh, actually, he's the boss. I just pay for everything and design everything and make everyone look cooler.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them, and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. Also posted a link to the Marvel Fan Center that I have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. We're going to be looking at two issues today. We're going to be looking at Iron Man 236 and 237. Now, Iron Man 236 is a continuation from our previous issue, and 237 is a standalone story. So we're going to see Iron Man going against the Grey Gargoyle, who we discovered from the previous issue. Jackson Guice, rest in peace, also known as Butch Guice, and Bob Layton are doing this cover. So this is David Michelinie and Bob Layton's second run on Iron Man. And we see the Grey Gargoyle here has caught on to Marcy, who was investigating the disappearance of one of her friends. And here we have our credits. David Michelinie is a plot script. I say Michelinie also, but I don't know. There's really no correct. CH is ch or k, so take your pick. Jackson Guice with the breakdowns, Bob Layton plot and finishes. And so he's going to try and convert her, but he hits the paint, which of course turns into stone. And she's now discovering that all these people are alive as he threatens Marcy will become part of his masterpiece. So he'll be his next masterpiece. And she's like, uh-oh. And so he continues, he sends stuff, but everything he touches turned to stone, which is weird because I thought only organic stuff turned to stone, but apparently everything turns to stone when he so wants it to be. And so she realizes she's too far from the house to scream, and so doesn't know how to get their attention, and he's going to go try to touch her, but of course you can see here where her hand is pointed at, and of course he touches it and it causes a short circuit. The butler comes through and notices something, and he goes checks, and he's like, oh, just making sure something's not wrong. And the Grey Gargoyle says, I did have a problem but have solved it. And you can see Marcy has been turned to stone. So Grey Gargoyle is pretending to be this sculptor. And so here is Tony Stark's girlfriend-ish, Ray. And then this is the driver who's not able to get Tony's car because apparently the tires have been slashed. So the Grey Gargoyle says, hey, take my car, leave it at the airport. My guy will go get it later. And so now it tells us 2 days have passed. And Jim Rhodes is going to Tony's house here, and this is his Tony's housekeeper, and he's out there with not Ray but with Kathy Dare, and Kathy Dare will be very important in a couple of issues, and so Jim does not like Kathy Dare. And he even says here, you're seeing a lot of that kid. And Tony says that she is kind of clingy, but he can cut her off anytime he wants. Well, you're going to see that is not going to happen. And so he's here saying, hey, Marcy had gone to San Diego to investigate the disappearance of one of her friends, and nobody has heard anything, and he's thinking about going down there. And Tony's now becoming very suspicious of things going down in San Diego, and tells Jim to go ahead and take care and to keep him appraised, and he'll do some research on his end here. And so off they go, and the lady gives him some food, the housekeeper. And Kathy says, I don't think your friend likes me, Tony. Maybe we shouldn't see so much of him. And Tony just says he just worries too much. I'm sure you two will work things out. And so, and she goes, I hope so. Jealousy can get ugly, you know? And so we are now back at Paul St. Pierre, the Grey Gargoyle, and he's moving everything away. He wants to live forever in his quest of immortality. So, being a sculptor, he thinks he's going to be able to get that in. And so, he's hired all these guys to move his sculptures. And so, here, Rhodey goes to Marcy's parents' house here, and he's like, wow. And so this guy opens the door, and he thinks it's the dad, but he's just the butler. The dad actually is a white dude. And we discover that Marcy is adopted and that she had stopped there before to change. And Rhodey's just wondering if she left an address or anything. And they're like, her stuff's still in her room. So Jim Rhodes decides to go take a look. And so very 80s girly. And Jim Rhodes notices, maybe she wanted to be a dancer or whatever. So he sees her purse and takes stuff out. There's the thing of St. Pierre there. And then he looks through Cinda Kendrick and thinks maybe he found himself a clue. And so Tony now on his headquarters is talking to one of his whiz people. And they're like, this Paul St. Pierre showed up about 8 months ago and took the art world by storm. But before that, he did not exist. And so he told him, let him know if he finds anything else. And so he's looking at this sculpture and he decides, I wonder. And so he cuts off a little piece from the heel there. And he realizes as he examines it, it's alive. Then suddenly the girl turns human and falls. So he calls for a paramedic team. And so they come and they ask him if he's going to come. And he says, later, there's something I got to do. He opens his briefcase, which has the Iron Man suit. Now, one of the neat things that they do nowadays that was to do the thing now where the armor just kind of comes to him or grows from him or whatever. I know Warren Ellis had gone through trying to do that, and that is a great idea versus carrying that briefcase all the time. So, all right. And so, at an endowment ceremony, there's a couple of those statues here, and they're giving him an endowment for the arts. So they're gonna give him a check, and of course, Rhodey comes through, takes out his gun. He's like, "Where's Marcy?" And of course he says, killing me in front of witnesses is stupid. And he's like, well, then talk. And of course he takes off his glove and says he ruined everything. But he's the one that chose to turn into the Grey Gargoyle. I'm quite sure he could have gotten out of the situation. But of course, we need to have a story. So he becomes a Grey Gargoyle when he's now bummed that his immortality as an art person is done here. So you can see here, my immortality is lost, all because of your love for some woman. And so he's going to punish him by taking Marcy and throwing her, which would, of course, effectively kill her. But Iron Man shows up and catches her. And so now we are going to have a superhero fight. So nothing here except just their thoughts of things happening, but it's nothing really that is important as far as the plot goes. So I'm going to go ahead and hurry since we are covering 2. And you can see he turns this palm into stone and throws it at him and uses that polymer that was this foam here to try and get him. He throws him now. He's going to throw him to that boat here. And look at him. just uses everything. Like I said, everything turns to stone when he wants, and you're gonna see something in a moment. This is why I'm saying when he wants, because he's actually gonna touch something but not turn it to stone. And so, he's gonna go into this boat here, and he turns it into stone so that it sinks. Iron Man's gonna have to stop going after him and rescue them, but realizes he's gone because he's inside this car driving it. So that's why. So he's choosing not to turn it to stone, but turns this guy into stone. So everyone is now recovered nicely, and you can see here these two get a moment here, and they're gonna spend the night together. So that is it for that issue. So we are now going to go directly into 237, which is a one and done issue here. Jackson Guice and Bob Layton continue here with our story. So we're going to start with the same creative team as the previous issue: David Michelinie, Jackson Guice, and Bob Layton. So we see Iron Man up in outer space, and we are going to start here, but we're going to work our way up. Everyone is dead, and this satellite thing is destroyed. Star Hunter is our title here, and he's looking at these things. He's shocked by everything he sees here. So we're going to go back to the beginning here. So we're going to start with Tony meeting with his lawyer, and that he reached a settlement for that lawsuit that happened when Iron Man destroyed the vault, and it's a $3 million, and Tony is not happy with that. That was during the Armor Wars, which I have covered. I have a playlist, by the way. Tony's unhappy. He says he's fumbled all these things ever since the Armor Wars, and so he is going to fire him. And you can see that he is not, and he's actually not going to take this very well, and he'll be back. So he's leaving here, and here comes Rhodey. He says, they ask him if he wants to talk, and, Tony's like, being in charge isn't everything it's always cracked up to be. And Jim Rose says, hey, maybe we could go somewhere. Then people from the State Department, Justice Department come in. Tony says, let them in. And these guys are going to make him a deal. They said, these G-men here say, if you do this... Well, first they asked Rhodey to leave. Rhodey's like, I do what I want. But, if Mr. Stark needs me, I'll be oiling my Uzi. And so they said, hey, we have this satellite and we lost contact with everybody. We would like Iron Man to go up there. Tony says, what's in it for me? He says, we will drop all the lawsuits. And Tony says, not enough. And then he says, we'll also bring pressure to see that all the other lawsuits, the civilian ones, are dropped. And Tony says, I'll check his schedule. So he gets some rockets and he is going to go there. Now, what was in this satellite? So basically, they were constructing a doomsday from the Superman, from DC, because they basically are taking DNA from people and combining it with DNA from animals. They were making a perfect killing machine. And hey, what could go wrong, right? And it got out and basically killed everybody in this place. So that has been what's happening up there, because hey, let's create something that can kill everything. And so they're heading up there and into it to see if he can find out what's going on. Now, if you see these pink and little things here, that's bacteria that is going to be a big part of the story. And so this is where the also, if you remember, when David Michelinie and Bob Layton started their run with Mark Bright, Tony had a satellite that had been destroyed by A.I.M. So he's gonna investigate in there as well. So he's looking through, and it looks like, the government was sort of using that shadow portion of itself. So here is this creature, and Tony thinks it's sleeping, but of course it is not. And so we're gonna have a fight. This is mostly an action issue. There's a lot of introspective, but just kind of narrating what's going on. It doesn't really move the story in any way. And so Tony decides, hey, maybe I can lure it into that room with the bacteria. And so there's this creature here, just like I said, they basically created Doomsday. And that's a good pose here. And so nothing Tony does is able to stop this creature because it's designed to destroy everything. And so Tony is going to decide he's going to try to get a room so that he can get an atmosphere and seal it so that all this bacteria now works. And so he gets the room and the creature starts going off on him. However, now that the room is sealed and working, this creature is going to befall the bacteria. And you can see here the bacteria is now going in on him, and ultimately it is going to kill him. And he's like, why you kill me? And so he's like, you killed everybody here and tried to kill me. And he's like, was my job. So it is a thing. So governments always war, profiteering. And so he's going to fix the rocket and head back to Earth. And so thus endeth the issue. So that is a nice way to end the issue here. So Iron Man 236 and 237, Bob Layton, David Michelinie, and Jackson Guice. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.